Ready? Ready?
Yep.
Live in 5, 4.
Welcome back to the BurlyFishing podcast. I'm here joined with my co-host, Paul Glass. I'm Jeff Burlingame. And on the BurlyFishing podcast today, we are talking about fishing stories, right? This is going to be a completely spontaneous episode. Got a little break between guest interviews and such. And we just felt like trudging up the past, our history, our stories.
Yes,
The good, the bad, the ugly, the usually soggy situations with all the rain that we come across. So we're just talking about, drinking some beers, talking about some fishing trips we've been on. Before we get into that, we got our matchup. We got all sorts of good stuff for you guys. But if you like the podcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to this thing. Drop us 5-star, help us improve the show by throwing a comment in there too, if you will. We appreciate it. And we appreciate all the love you guys have given to us really in the past 28 days. This thing has been blowing up in my consideration. I know we're still like a small channel, but to me it's been astronomical, like the numbers and everything changing. We just ran this giveaway for MONSTERBASS, gave away $100 in tackle. We have a winner, Michael, who is a Cubs fan. So I don't know if it's your last name. I would never say your last name on this podcast. I'll bleep it, but I'm pretty sure that's an obvious fake last name. But anyways, Michael, who entered into our $100 giveaway, he is the winner, and he confirmed via email that he's a real person. And I love his email, but I'm not giving it out, and it's hilarious. It's a pretty good email, but I had to confirm he was real. He is real, so he wins $100. Congrats to him. We'll be doing more giveaways. I'm sure it's not something I'll do once and never do again. And we've grown so much. It's like, how can I not? We doubled in size. This channel doubled in size. 2x over one giveaway, and it feels good to give somebody $100 in tackle. That kid's he's gonna crush it.
I'm green with jealous rage.
I mean, $100 in tackle. What do you buy?
No, $100 in tackle.
Did you spend $100 in tackle today? Let me just ask you, because I did this week. So I can tell you.
It's not hard to do. You can turn around and do that. It's not hard. It's that's $100 less pissed off that your wife or significant other is. So that's a big, huge win. If I had $100 in tackle. If it was just someone just here's a gift card for $100, you can only buy something that's fishing related. I for sure would just I would load up on all the stuff that's not sexy.
All the stuff that catches fish?
Yeah, all the
non-novelty, the real deal stuff.
Dude, all hooks, honestly, line. And I would just buy 3 gigantic spools of braided line, 200, 300 yards of 20, 15 and whatever. And then I would just buy hooks and crap, just all the stuff that's it's so expensive. You go look at VMC hooks, you're well, here's just soft from elbow down. You can keep that, and then it's ridiculous.
Sign away my firstborn.
Yeah, I got 2 kidneys, right? I only really need one.
You don't even need both, technically. I don't know.
All right, then hey, I'll take 2 spinner baits. It's just, it is.
I'll take 2.
It's ridiculous. Perfect. But yeah, no, I would. That's what I would do. If I had $100, that's exactly what I would do. That's a good question. We should ask that to everybody. That's a good question.
Let's do that right now. Hey, audience, listening to this podcast and or watching on YouTube, you had $100 to spend on just tackle, mind you, because of course there's reels and rods and all other sorts of.
No, there's not.
But in this case, we're just talking about tackle. So what would you buy? What I spent $100 on was tungsten, because it's so expensive. I am obsessed now though. I have tungsten, the Ned Flanders Ned heads that I get from Swagger Tungsten. Freaking love them. And then tungsten worm and flipping weights. And you made the crack about not buying flipping weights today, and I was like, ugh, as I'm unpackaging flipping weights at the same time.
I saw that you did that, and I was like, I'm looking. I bought nice flipping hooks, and I'm like, oh, I'll get some stoppers, and I'm gonna get some weights, and then I'm like, a 1-pack. These come in a 1-pack.
Oh yeah.
What? Like,
I
no.
was unpackaging my 2-pack of half-ounce tungstens. Do you want to guess how much those are?
$20 total.
That was 8. It was
Okay.
$8 for 2 weights, which mind you, I like when we go to the dam this weekend.
You're gonna lose 4.
I'm gonna lose all of them.
Yeah.
The reason I stocked up, I bought it ended up being like, I don't know, it was at least 18 tungsten weights. So about $1.5 billion. And
my eyes are I'm just such a do-it-yourselfer. Like I'm a do-it-yourselfer. Wow, how do I want to put this? I'm not a cheap ass, but I am frugal. I am frugal.
This is so true. This is last year. No, before last year, Paul basically told me Hobie Pro Angler a bust. And I was like, holy shit, that's a really expensive boat. And then we talked about it. And we all dreamed about it. And then the next year, I'm like, let's do it. Let's buy this Hobie. And we go to the store together, and I leave with the Hobie. This is like literally who I am versus who you are when it comes to these things. We were just looking. I was like, Paul, will you meet me at the store in Lansing? And will we look at this together and we'll talk about it? And we did. And we had lunch. And we had lunch and we talked about it. We pros and cons. Yep. And I go back and I freaking bought it. Like I'd send him a picture from it being in the back of my truck. It's like, I did a thing. Sorry, not sorry. And Paul is now on the path. I'm glad to hear that you're on the path to getting your pro angler.
We're gonna discuss that. Not at length. Because I don't want to. It hurts me to get into that level of detail on spending that many dollars for one item.
Right, but this is a depiction of your frugality in that
it is. I literally texted Jeff. I will not buy these. I'm using bullet weights and I'll tie a knot. I'm sorry. I'm just not gonna do that. I have 1,000 bullet weights and they cost me like toenail scraps. I'm not doing that.
Which, mind you, I also have all the lead weights too.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But it's like that's what I started with, and I haven't run out of them because I never use them anymore after trying tungsten. It was just life changing. So just saying, not necessary to catch fish. Not necessary to catch fish. Very important.
I'll put it on camera for you.
What?
That it's not.
I just did. We're on camera.
Oh yeah. Well, this weekend.
Okay. All right. We'll throw it in every video from now on.
All right. April question of the week. April Madness. Week 5 matchup. Elite 8. We've moved on to the second round. West Division matchup. We got number 1 Shades. Number 1 seed Shades. Hard shake.
Number 1 seed makes sense.
Number 5 seed Sunblock. This is like a Duke Wisconsin or something like matchup. It's not for the faint of heart.
I feel like if you guys are seeing Paul right now in his translucent skin,
I'm shaking.
You can probably imagine where he has to go.
I can't even. This is brutal. This is like firstborn or secondborn. I don't.
Man, if you put it that way.
Yeah, I mean.
Right.
All right. You go first. Yeah, I can't.
All right. I can't. You're still processing.
Yeah,
all right. So for me, this might be somewhat surprising, but I'm definitely like, I almost always forget sunblock. And I know that you're the complete opposite because I've gone on trips with you, but I almost always forget it. And that means I will soon be dying of melanoma. And I accept this. I accept this fact. For I do not put on sunblock. So it's 100,000% for me, my shades, because I just can't. I'm like my eyes are already super sensitive to the sun. I don't know what it is, but like I can look completely away from the sun, and still my eyes are like, it's bright out here, you guys. Just the ambient light just murders me. So I hate the sun so much. As far as sight goes, not as far as my flesh goes. So I have to have my shades. But I also, here's the reason I may potentially still survive another 10 years before melanoma strikes. I do wear like the sun shirts and the pants. And I am like the fully clothed fisherman.
Yeah, it's true.
Like people will look at me, it's 187 degrees
With the
outside.
whole
I have it all up, and people
yeah.
they always ask me like, "How are you alive?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's moisture wicking and it's breathable."
It's moisture wicking.
Like, get off my back.
As you're like Shaq, like dripping sweat, like from.
It's wicking. No, this is the wicking of the moisture. It's fine. So yeah, I'm covered anyways, so I usually don't wear sunblock.
If this was almost any other matchup, sunblock would win. Shades is a critical item though. Like
Very
why?
cool.
Like why would you go fishing? I'm going shades. There's reasons the 1 seed. I did the rankings, so I'm a slave to the rankings. I really want to pick sunblock though because comfort. If I put on my flesh is already tingling. If I put on SPF 35, that copper tone sport, if I put it on like right in the morning, I'm good for the entire day.
And he does every single trip, people.
Right.
If you go on a trip with him, you will have to do the manscaping of the sunscreen for this boy. You will be oiling his back.
And I will make it weird.
And he will absolutely every time make it weird as possible.
You will cringe. But yeah,
the reason you never burn is because you got an inch thick layer of sunscreen on you. Like
I got like 4 t-shirts on. One of them's made of liquid.
He brings a bottle for the day. It's the whole bottle.
It's what it is. It's a non-issue. Yep. But yeah, I'm going shades. I would layer up and deal with it, and I'm going shades. God dang. All right, Matt. Moving on. Dang it. All right.
This boat is just so sad. It's got no pliers. It's got no sunscreen.
Speaking of pliers.
I
think I gotta go back in my text here, but I think I gotta look up at what moment in the video, but in the latest video of Jeff and I fishing, you can see very clearly where Jeff is struggling with a crankbait, getting it out of a fish's mouth, and what does he reach for?
Oh, it was twice in that video because it was the Ned rig on the big 18er.
It's not his. It's not his pinky finger that he's reaching for. He's reaching for the pliers there, and they worked. I'm just saying, it's a good tool.
I didn't say it was a bad tool. It's a matchup. You gotta pick one.
I know.
And I will also say I did not wear bug spray that day.
Yeah. Well,
it was like crazy weather. Mile-an-hour
winds. Yeah.
There's no skeeters, so. You had one, I think. You had like one mosquito. You're like, that's weird.
I did. Like,
and then we had.
What are you doing here?
No other bugs the entire trip. So I didn't need it. So I was like, oh well, I don't get bug spray, so I use my pliers.
All right.
Dude, that Ned, the like 1/0 tungsten hooks I have, that have like giant, ridiculous Ned hook that was like buried in the corner of that 18.5 into his mouth, and I couldn't get it out. It was like twisted too because he was in the current like. Rolling, and I was fighting him like crazy upstream. It was ridiculous, but yeah, I had to use the pliers for that too.
Moving on.
I just want to prove a point. No big deal.
I'm right. Number 9, second matchup. Number 9 seeded water bottle. So this is your water for the day.
The full water bottle, not the empty water bottle.
Correct.
Very, very big.
I think empty water's bottle has been eliminated.
Yeah, because we have stable boats, so we just stand up and pee off the side, or pee on your boat and it goes out the scupper holes, whatever.
Live your own life,
dude. That fish spermed all over my boat last weekend. Like I got bodily fluids everywhere. It's fine. That's just normal.
Number 9 water bottle versus number 3 nippers, which have survived.
Nippers. Who did the nippers clear?
Good question. Hold, please. Number 9 nippers cleared. They cleared Crocs, remember?
I don't remember that. Was I a part of this conversation?
This was JC. You were on the podcast.
We chose nippers over Crocs?
Dude, everyone murdered the Crocs.
Oh yeah, well people don't like them because they don't understand them. I thought I didn't like them either until I got them. So I'm just saying.
They're outside slippers. It's not even a question.
On behalf of the Crocs, give them a dang chance. If you haven't worn them, you can't say anything. That's the rule.
If it was a play-in game, it wouldn't even be close. Crocs would win for sure. But it's not. It's number 3 nippers, Elite 8 versus number 9 water bottle. Continue.
Water.
Water. I mean, number 3 nippers just seems really high now. That's a bad ranking. Oh God, it's not even. I mean, dude, if you want to go out for more than 3 hours, water.
Yeah, I can definitely not drink anything for 3, but yeah, that's about the capacity. It's like
that's it, man.
It's like 3:01, 3 hours and 1 minute.
You're doing one of these,
like, no, I'm so thirsty.
Yeah, you're gonna need that.
Yeah.
All right, that was it. That was an easy one. Shades knocks out sunblock, brutal. Fatality. Number 9, water bottle. Trouncing number 3 nippers in a solid upset. Love it.
Yep. There we go.
All right. Weekly check-in. Weekly check-in. Week in review. We don't have a name for this yet. I call it the check-in.
Banger.
Very lame.
Yeah.
Oh.
The weekly banger. That is from the newsletter.
Or is this a danger?
Maybe should we explain that? Is that going to be its own podcast?
I think we gotta wait on that one. I'm not ready for that yet.
Bangers and dangers.
This is the danger. Weekly danger.
I think the bangers and dangers will be a podcast that is recorded around a campfire. Short.
Yeah, I would agree.
It'll be a campfire one.
We'll get there. Only had one beverage. I need more than that to really do that justice. All right, weekly danger. Walk me through the weekend.
The weekend was epic.
Take me away, Sandman.
Take me home, country road. We took a country road, and I mean, the trip started out great. Just when like you called me and you're like, "Hey, ramp's closed." I'm turning around, and then I passed you on the road.
Yeah.
And you were recording on your camera, so it was filming me pull behind you. Yeah. So we went to fish a area of the Grand. I turned off location services. Okay, God, it's like whatever. All right,
it matters.
So an undisclosed location located upon the Grand River, the majestic Grand River, is where we went to fish, and it was fantastic, as the Grand almost always is. Like I know there are sections maybe that aren't that great, but like the vast majority of that river is so much fun, especially when flooding is not insane. So water level was actually down. We got there, it looked like it was down like 3 feet.
It was low.
Yeah, it was pretty low, but still,
which made the current
was fairly rapid. So Paul's paddling, by the way. You got to keep this in mind. I have a pedal kayak. He has a paddle kayak. So traversing a high current river in a paddle kayak. Paul, how fun was that?
Okay, it wasn't traversing that was the issue. It was going upstream. That was was frustration was had. I'm glad that a lot of that footage didn't make it in, even though I did send it. So, that was.
I considered it, but people just watching people be mad. I don't know. Do you guys want to see that?
Dude, you know what? If you want to see that, the footage is available.
I put in your epic reward, man. So there was one of my favorite moments was Paul.
That's gonna be a story. I think we need to hit that as a story.
Okay,
I'll wait on that one. That was a lot of drama.
So this trip has stories in it then. So let's just, long and short of it, look, we went and we fished the Grand River. We were trying to get upstream / figure them out for quite a while. And then I happened to cross one on a red squarebill, flat-sided squarebill from 6 cents. And that thing freaking banged, and all day long too. Like I caught many more smallmouth on that. So we got our first smallie. So, blood was spilt. We were ready. We were thirsty, and we paddled upriver a bit more through the toughest little choke point we found, which will come back in Paul's story. Current very, very high, very intense. It was like around a bend too. It was like just a ridiculous spot. But once we cleared that little choke point, we found an island, which was a lot of fun. So we maintained 6 foot distance apart. We socially distanced ourselves on a tiny island, which would be like, if you think about it, really weird if you're like marooned on an island with another person. It's like, oh.
Arms length.
6 feet, please. So we grabbed our spinning rods. We just fished the Ned rig, and you caught one. I heard you. I walked over towards you, maintaining enough distance, cast in the same spot, and pulled another one out. So doubled up, first double of the day. It was freaking dope. There were 3 doubles that day. That was awesome. So fished that, paddled upstream a bit more, and we figured out a little. We accidentally happened upon the trick for the day, which was a weedless chartreuse Ned head with a Guggen Baits rattling Ned in a dark color with it had like a flashy greenish kind of underside, and it was like black with red fleck.
So I have 2 bags of now. a different color.
Yeah, stocked up, man. So I had one that was pre-rigged because I was showing examples of like rigging different Ned rigs on my YouTube channel. And I just had it. Like I've never fished with it. I've never caught a fish on the rattling Ned, not once. So I was like, nah, this is whatever trash. Here you go, Paul. And you fish this trash.
Here's some garbage.
No, I had like 3 extras in case I broke off in the river and I was going to tie them on and try them. And you lost yours and like also fell in at a very dangerous spot. Yeah, we were like still on the island, climbing on those log jams and just fishing off the front of the island, which, you know, it's smart. That's what smart people do. And ball falls in, which I didn't get on camera. I thought I would. I had super wide on, didn't catch it. You hear just sploosh. And then I go, whoa, are you all right?
And a big,
and you're like, I'm fine. Yep. So I gave you a choice and you picked the chartreuse head, which came back right after that. So then we hop back in the boats, travel up, and then we hit in that one spot. I think we caught, I don't know, 9, almost 10 fish.
Yeah.
In that spot.
Stretch. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So like I paddled up, I started fishing mine with I think it was just the regular chartreuse, coppertreuse, the Z-Man coppertreuse color, not weedless, and caught. I had 2. The hook broke. So I broke 5 hooks that day. All these, actually the chartreuse heads that they really kind of won the day too, but they also didn't win the day. The color won the day, but the hooks sucked. So I broke off on the second one, and that's when you caught. I don't know if this is one of your stories, but so Paul was you were hitting the bank pretty hard, just drifting down and not getting much, and you said you were getting kind of dejected.
I had the drag chain down. I was getting teed off and getting upset, and I realized because I had sunglasses on that I could actually see. There was almost like a trench running parallel to the bank, and I was on the other side of it. So it was probably only 6 or 8 inches deeper than where the lower part of the bank was where I was fishing. And I was like, why am I not fishing in there? And so I paddled back upstream, dropped the drag chain again, and like 3rd or 4th cast into that little trench was just like a 19-inch monster. And I was like, I lost it in a good way. Not lost the fish, caught the fish, brought it in the boat, but like I lost my mind. I was like, because to that point it spent like 2 hours of like paddling and just not catching lots of fish. And like, it's fine. I wouldn't have been mad if that was the whole trip, but I wouldn't have been like thrilled. I could have not caught anything else, and I would have been like jacked up about that whole trip. It would have been totally worth the drive. That was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So yeah, you had that 19, and I just hear some whooping, and I
leaned back in my seat so hard I dropped my seat down.
Yeah, that's on camera. That was so good. I was like, what is this? Yeah. And then so you had that net on, so I was like, oh, I'll tie this net on. So I tied it on, and like first cast, this was this another double up, or am I thinking of it?
Yeah, this was right after. It was right after, like while I was like putting that fish back in the water.
Because it was on camera, like So Paul, this is on the video. So if you guys want to see everything we're saying right now, just go to the BurlyFishing YouTube channel and watch the one we put up Monday. I think it was Monday.
I can't wait to be like 67 and like watching these.
Dude, it's gonna be fun. But like, you're on the camera, you had just released and you're talking about it, and then you go, oh, Jeff's screaming, which is a good thing, which means we're probably on fish. And then turn around and I'm holding that 18 and a half. And so it's like 19, 18 and a half, like back to back. It was crazy. Freaking dope. And I tried to rival your reaction. I usually do. I was whooping and hollering too.
It's really funny. Like when I look back at video, or even when I like think back, I'm always like, man, I'm such a calm, cool, and collected outdoorsman. And then like I look at my video, I'm like, I'm a freaking fangirl. I can't help it. Like I don't want to be that guy. Like I don't want to be like Broy McBrostaff, but like I just like there's no filter. Like I'm not like I'm gonna be cool when I catch this one, and I won't care. I can't help it. I just like
Yeah,
turn into a dork. There's
shoulders.
like, oh, see ya. No, I don't know. There's nothing you can do about it. I hope people recognize that, like, if you were like to script your own reaction, it would look differently than what it actually is. At least for me.
Yeah, for sure. I
But I
mean,
don't. I'm just like, ah, that was awesome.
we've talked about that before. That was on like one of the first episodes.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about like fishing reactions. How do you not freak out? It's just so awesome.
I'm
It
just
just feels so
adoring.
good. I love
It
it.
does. It does, and it is fun. And then I don't know. That's part of it. But regardless, great day. It was a great day. We had like a 15,
Yep.
20 fish day. It was a good day.
There were a lot of fish in the boat, and
Some big
I
ones and
thought,
a lot of double ups.
yeah, there was. I think the majority of them were over 16 inches.
Oh yeah.
I would say. Right, so
Nope,
there's
16
some
rigger.
decent size smallies. I caught a sucker fish. That was interesting. It was I think they call it red horse.
Yep.
I
Because
was
the
looking
red
it up.
fin. So I
The
said it
red
was a white
fins.
sucker, but it did have red fins.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the only difference. But yeah, so I mean, uh, I think people around me like there's a lot of like red horse fishing aficionados
Oh yeah.
around. Yeah, like that's sought after. And
Pop one of those in the smoker, my guy.
and I caught them on a red square bill, not a small
Yeah.
one, like a large red square bill.
Well, and you see the size of that fish's mouth and like the
Yeah,
orientation of it. It's like a
yeah,
drum, like looking fish. It does not seem like it looks like something that vacuums the bottom. It does not look like something that would eat a square bill.
right, dude. He put up a friggin' fight. He fought like a catfish.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They'll
what I was
drag
thinking.
you down.
Yeah, he was moving, and it
Yeah.
was a
Well,
lot of
you had
fun.
a good size. That's like 20 plus inch. I mean,
Yeah,
that was a big fish.
and I was like, "What's this? Trash?" Threw it back. Sorry to everybody that I didn't say trash. I thought it was really freaking cool. I was excited because it's a
Oh
new
yeah.
species. It's one of those things. It's like catch a new type of fish you've never caught or even really thought about or
That's
fished
like
for.
Yeah,
It's cool.
that'd be like if you're like Ash Ketchum and you just like hucked a Pokeball like behind your back and like, oh,
Like, what's that?
Snorlax, like
AG,
look
my
at me.
first one? Yay.
you're
Look at
gonna be
me.
you're gonna be
Wow,
jacked up.
Snorlax.
Exactly.
Dude, you're about to upgrade that Snorlax. You got to get a new Snorlax sticker.
Dude,
You
I'll
know
be honest with you, I took the
that.
sticker off and it, you know,
Did you cry?
I
I
I
left mine on when I sold it, and I was like, you have to keep that
I,
on.
I shed a man tear. We're gonna get to okay, so that was the trip. Anything else on the trip you want to cover?
I had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
10 out of 10 would do again.
we'll do again.
Will do this weekend. Upcoming trip, which will be on next week's YouTube channel on Wednesday. We are going to fish the Flat River this time at an undisclosed location, and I will not
We're
turn
not
on
gonna get
location.
specific. We're not gonna get
But
specific.
let's just say that there is something very scenic at the beginning that will be extremely recognizable.
Going to a place. That's
If they
it.
watch the video, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that thing, seen it."
No, because the cameras are all gonna be facing downwards towards the bottom of the boat.
Oh, how does that water look? It's a great
Makes
stream.
me sick. All right, moving on. Thanks for ruining everything.
I
Turkey.
spot it all the time.
So I went turkey hunting on Monday and Tuesday. Just the mornings, half days. Thank you to my wife for letting me go. I'm not joking. That is a big deal. You get basically 2 weeks. I don't know the statistics, but Michigan hunters are fairly successful. I'm setting myself up for failure here. Just started turkey hunting last year, dude. It is fun. Got up really butt crack of dawn. What did I get up at? 4 o'clock. Um,
Ew.
yeah, but totally worth it. I was so excited. Was already packed up, ready to roll. Hopped in the truck around 4:45 ish. Spot near my house where I know there are birds. Went out, hit the crow call to try and scare up a gobble, just to see if I could see if one was all jacked up. Right, because what you do is you're doing what's called shot calling, and with a shot call, you're just doing something super light. You can just slam your car door. And the birds, because they're in their, mating season and there's so much going on for them, they're like they're all jacked up and they're like so excited that like even like a car door is like and so they're giving themselves away though, so that's why they get that's why you hunt them during this time of year. So I went over, slammed the car door, listened for a gobble, didn't hear anything, hit the crow call, nothing. So I was like, all right, going to the next spot. So met up with my brother-in-law at an undisclosed location that will remain undisclosed. And we heard, we got out into the woods and we were kind of talking about, all right, like it's still like it's 5:45. Yeah. First light's at like 6:15. We're in the woods and we're kind of figuring out like where we're gonna go because we know where we think there's gonna be birds. We're all planned out. But then a chicken, and then like we're talking like half mile away, and then all of a sudden, and I'm like, yes, it's just like he's gobbling at this chicken, at this rooster. Yeah. And so chicken, rooster. And so
I was gonna leave that for the comments.
We walk all the way. We walk to like the edge of the public property. We're on public ground. We walk to the edge of the public, and I can hear him, and he's on private, but he's probably only maybe 100, 150 yards away. Now you can never really tell because if they turn their head one direction or the other, they sound like they're in a totally different place. But he was we sat down, we set up some decoys, started calling. It seemed like he was coming closer and closer and closer, but then at some point he just stopped and he like wasn't gonna cross that line on the public. So didn't get that bird. Walked around, tried to hit him a couple different times, didn't get it. Walked around a lot that day. It got hot. And I mean like it went from like 40s into like the high 60s.
Yeah, it was almost 70 that day. It
got hot. So we called it around 10. I had to get back to work, so worked the rest of the day. Got up early. Literally had the same exact day the next day. Got back on that bird. Had him calling. Had him gobbling. Couldn't get him. I'm giving up on that bird. I don't want to, but I don't have unlimited time. So we'll get back. We're gonna get back at it Sunday. We're gonna hit one or two new spots. I found a spot that I really like setting up in a field. So it's on Turkey Federation property. So I'm jacked up about that. So we'll see what happens. I really want to get a turkey, man. And if I do, I'll do a video on how to smoke a wild turkey and then how to make turkey stock, which is liquid gold. But yeah, awesome. So that's coming down. And then the other big news, I listed 2 of my kayaks. Listed the 11-footer, which is like my backup kayak that my wife uses, and then listed the Predator, which is that hurts it's a stake to the heart.
I bet.
Stake to the heart. But the intent is to sell both of those boats and then upgrade to a Hobie PA12. In papaya, probably.
In papaya. In what's first available from the used market.
I would really like to get it in camo. I know I may pay a top dollar for that, but I'm frugal, and if someone's willing to part with a papaya for like $1,000 less, see ya.
Hit this boy up, Paul@BurlyFishing.com. Send me your shit.
I'm ready to purchase. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But that is
on board.
I'm gonna enjoy this trip. Could be it probably won't be, but it could be the last one. But it probably won't be. It takes a hot minute to sell a boat that expensive.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, it took me, so the John was like 3 weeks for the John. It's around that price point.
Yep.
Yeah. Rad. Let's talk.
Show meat.
Transition
softly into the show meat. All right. We're going to hit up a couple stories. I do want to, there's reasons that stories are good, and it's not always just because of like,
the
hilarity, which is a big deal. Timing. There is always drama. That. But there's always something that you'll like figure out too. And so I want to hit that too. So I will. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I have about 1 billion stories, but
sure. We're narrowing it down to like 2.
Exactly. I figure we got time for like 1 or 2 really, really good ones, and then maybe like a couple short, quick and sweet, kind of deals. I'm going to start with the Beer Cinco /50 bass 1 day, 1 puddle.
Classic.
Epic day. So
that lake will remain undisclosed as well.
That forever, because I don't want.
We ate out of that lake and we caught a ton of fish out of the lake.
What a lake. So I was all in one trip, right? I'm not mixing this up. The Beer Cinco is like the day before. Yes. No. The puddle was day 1.
Yes.
No.
No.
This is the salmon trip. The puddle was on the salmon trip. Because your brother.
We had another person with us on the other trip.
Yeah. All right. Scratch Senko. I'm mixing. We'll come back to the beer Senko. It's very important. But I want to start off with the puddle because this is a story that like fishing stories are made of. This is like what fishing stories aspire to be. So just imagine catching 50 bass each, and both with a 3.5 pounder in Michigan when was that? That was like late fall.
It was raining, and I had
cold and
I had a sweater on.
We were layered up, and it was
I had jeans. Yeah,
miserable day. And so like we're all going up. So Paul's driving with his brother-in-law. We're going up to do a guided salmon trip. Where are we? Fishing the Big Man. We're fishing the Big Man in Michigan.
A river.
Nobody's ever heard of that one. All right. Anyway, a trophy salmon fishing. Like, never heard of it.
Whatever. Never heard of her.
At any rate, so you're driving up with your brother-in-law. I was ahead of you guys, and I had already pulled out the old sportsman guide, right, to figure out where I wanted to fish because I wanted to do some bass fishing the day before. I hadn't been out in a little while that current time of the year. So I went up early, probably like 2 hours earlier than you guys, and we had just that thing right there. So we had that
2016.
Yep. So we had that one, and you and I had talked a few times. I had post-it noted the whole thing. So like it's these one of these.
We had been to this spot previously.
Yeah, in the beer Cinco trip.
No. We were fishing for a different species of fish on a different piece of water that is within some miles, and we had driven by this lake.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I said.
That lake's
probably... That's a place we should go to.
Yep.
And here we are.
So we plotted it out. So basically, I picked 3 lakes. I was gonna hit 2 of them if I had time. So I went up early, hit one lake. It was 75-mile-an-hour winds blowing across this entire lake.
Times.
Great times. I was having fun. I was in my paddle kayak at the time because I still had the Predator, the 13-foot Predator at that time. So paddling through the wind, suffering immensely. It was freezing cold. My fingers were numb. I was like, this sucks. Maybe I'll just go wait for them at the hotel or whatever. And I start paddling out. And this is when I tied on the Ned rig before I had ever caught a fish on a Ned rig. And I was like, this thing's stupid. This thing won't work.
It does seem dumb.
It does. If you look at it, like it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, no way. So I threw it on. I'd been playing with it before, so I knew kind of what I was doing. So I cast that sucker out by some docks, and lo and behold, I catch my first fish of the trip. So I'm like, oh, rad, things are happening now. And I, of course, screamed and hollered. And then I caught one right after that, like cast for cast. And I caught him on my way out. So I had like 2 or 3, but I was like, also, this lake kind of sucks. It was really... clear water, windy, extremely weedy, just like weird conditions. And I was like, I'm just gonna go find something else. So I hit up the other one, the one that you had said should be a banger. And I show up there, and it had that like completely sand boat launch, right? So I'm like, this is weird. I'm just gonna drag my boat down. We'll figure this out. The lake is so small, it's absurd. Like I don't even know.
I could paddle across it effortlessly. In like less than 5 minutes.
Is it like 30 acres? Is it less than?
I could tell you.
Dude, yeah, all right. Facts are coming in hot.
I got my boat. I got my book.
There you go. So at any rate,
Paul's going to come in here.
Well,
we'll find out.
We'll get facts. I'll pull them up on your story later if I have to while you're talking. But
no, you do your thing.
At any rate, this lake is friggin' tiny. Just believe us there. There's one house on this lake, and it is a public lake. It's very strange. There's just one house like up on a hill there. And I go in, I'm trying to figure this out. I was in like the lower section of it and just dinking around with a few different lures, and nothing was really working. So then I start hitting the bank, moving up, throw on that Ned rig again.
Hold on. What was your guess?
30 acres.
It's 28.
28 acres? I was close, yeah.
And awesome. Apparently, man, we gave away too much information.
You showed the title of that book too, so I could just go look for any 30-acre lake. All right. If you figured it out, just don't tell anybody else.
Go die.
Dude, you can't have it. It's ours. We're gonna buy it. We're gonna buy that house and just own this lake, and it's private now. But at any rate, so I was dinking around on the bank throwing that Ned, and then I landed that 3.5 pounder, and I sent you a Snapchat as you were driving up. I was like, dude, come to this lake, and I was like,
start doing 90.
So he speeds up. I keep fishing. I turn the boat around from the bank to like, what was that? Like 25, 30 yards offshore, off the bank. And I start casting towards the middle of the lake and just letting that Ned rig sit there, just dead sticking it. And I was pulling bass out cast for cast, like just crushing it. And I start snapping Paul back. I'm like, I hope you're close, because I'm just hammering it right now. And then he gets there. You got there with your brother-in-law. You guys pulled out. We talked a little bit. I basically like threw you my Ned rigs. I was like, take these. They work.
No.
No, you used your own. Yeah.
I made my own.
This was part of probably one of the best parts of the story. But I gave your brother-in-law a ton of Neds. I was like, here, these work. They're bass candy.
No, hold on. So, okay, that's correct. You give him like 2 handfuls of Neds and rigs. I take ball head jigs that I had.
Half Senkos
and trick worms, and just bit the tails off.
Yep.
And rigged them up.
Which is the original Ned rig. I mean, that's how it started.
Really. I was like, I can make this. I don't have any. I don't need any.
Which again illustrates the type of fisherman you are.
And we're back.
We've had this discussion. But so the best part was what we learned from this, right? So because again, every story is going to have a little lesson. This is story time. We got lessons, right? So what's the lesson here? The way I was fishing the Ned rig mattered. The Ned rig itself did not, because I gave your brother-in-law all of those, and you ended up putting up like 50.
I did numbers in a
You did the same giant numbers.
And I caught a big fish too.
And you had another 3.5, right? So it's like we each had a big fish, each had the big numbers, but it was because of the way we were fishing it. We were dead sticking it.
And I got the OTR.
And the one for the road. Oh, you always.
It allowed us to get off the fucking lake.
I don't think we've explained that.
We've not explained that.
We will in a moment. But was it the birth of that? It can't have been the birth of that.
No.
It might have been, because we did kind of polish off a little fifth of bourbon while we were on this lake too. So Paul and I basically anchored up, face towards the middle of the lake, and we're casting out the neg and we're pulling fish, just one for one every single time, doubling up all day long. It was insane. And I had brought a fifth of Cascade Blonde, which, if you guys don't know, is a $20 fifth of bourbon.
The other liquid gold.
The other liquid gold, which is so freaking delicious. And it's a fish-based bourbon, right? It's got that fish on the front. This is like this beer that I'm drinking right now. It's got the fish on it, so I automatically have to try it. And it was the first time I tried it there, and it was delicious. And it's got like instructions on the back to convert the cork into a bobber, and I thought that was so cool. Anyways, so we basically, between the three of us, polished this fifth off, and now we're feeling pretty great, still catching fish. And we're going to call this will have to have been the inauguration of.
Well, hold on. All right. We'll explain the OTR. Then we got to go back to the lesson, because it's important.
So, yeah, basically just the technique that you're using is so important. So somebody says, oh, spinner baits, they always catch fish, and you're throwing a spinner bait and you don't catch any fish. It's not the spinner bait's fault. It's probably not even color's fault. It's how you're fishing it. Yeah. It's because you're supposed to burn that along a weed edge or something like that, and that's what the fish want. And then each lure also has so many different techniques that you can use with it. So like the Ned rig, for example, that we're using that day, the most common way to catch fish on it is like that dead stick, where it's just sitting there. It's a mushroom-shaped jig head, so it sits with the jig head sitting right on the floor of the lake or the body of water you're on, and then the plastic sits facing straight up, and it kind of waves around.
It's vertical.
Vertical, like some sort of bottom life or something.
Those little punching bag things, those like blow up with the sand at the bottom, and you punch them and they come right back up? That's exactly what it looks like.
That's perfect. And it moves just like that in the water, and the fish freaking love it. And using like the Z-Man Elastec, for example, works a little better, but Cincos will sit upright like that too if you have a decent sized jig. And you were using ball head jigs. It's just like the sandy bottom, I think, on that lake really worked really well in your favor for that, whereas a rocky bottom might not.
It wouldn't have worked as well, but it also depends on what you're doing with it. Because if you're hopping it, you can get the job done. It's not as good. Nothing is as good because this quality hook because it's got that wire keeper, which is a big deal, and then the plastic that you're using, the Z-Man plastic, Ned plastic is just
indestructible.
I mean, you can catch 30 fish on it, and it could still be there. It's hard to.
I think I switched baits once that day, so I had two plastics I used for 50 fish.
I have bought maybe a dozen bags in my life.
Yeah.
It seems high.
That seems a little high. Like they just last forever. I still have my original bag of like the copper truce.
Oh,
I still have it.
Crazy. But it is that's the difference. That's like when people are like, "What are you doing?" And like you are fishing right 2 feet from somebody using the same bait and catching them, and someone's not. Like that's the reason. It's like, how are you fishing? Because brother-in-law, the guy knows how to fish without a doubt. Bless his heart, could not figure it out.
I think he just had a tactic he was trying to use that wasn't the one that we were using. Correct. And, you get after it. I'm definitely extremely guilty of this. You get stubborn and you're like, no, I'm going to catch it this way.
Or frustrated.
You have for facts too.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Nope, this is going to happen or it's not. I'm out of here.
And I'm leaving.
Yeah. But like, yeah, so we had just kind of figured it out, and it was just, I'll say this too, like if you guys are ever struggling, and I've had a few people ask me on like YouTube or Instagram or wherever the past couple weeks, it's like if you're struggling to catch fish, my guess usually, if you're fishing the right stuff, is you're fishing too fast. And that's what happened to us that day, right? It's like we were struggling, or I was struggling at first before you guys got there, and we just dialed it in. But I think I was fishing too fast. They weren't looking for something moving like that. And once I landed on the Ned rig, I'm now fishing the bottom, and then I wasn't moving for a painful amount of time, and they were just eating it up. And sometimes it's like, just slow down, just try something different. You're fishing spinnerbait, you're burning spinnerbaits and cranks, and they're not doing anything. Slow down, move towards the bottom.
Yeah, that's my my piece of advice for anybody, and this goes for like if we're at the cottage and there's a kid who can't catch one on a worm, I'm like, they don't want worms right now. It's one of two things. They either don't want what you have, or they're not there. And so if you can't move, just do something completely different. It doesn't matter what you do differently. Change color, higher in the water column, lower in the water column, faster, slower, different bait, it doesn't matter. Just do something different.
Fish are there. They almost always are in numbers. And especially if they're on like at your cottage, right? It's like, do you know there's fish in that lake? Billions. Yeah, so they're there. A lot of it. They're there. So if you're not getting a bite, a look, a move, if you can't see anything, any shadows or any bodies in the water, you're not feeling a tug on your line ever or anything, just change it up.
Anything different. I agree.
Yeah. So that was an amazing day. We got hammered on the water. I landed my boat on the wrong side of the lake on accident because I just pulled all that bourbon. I just remember going head down, and your brother, I was like, over here, and I was like, okay, and I just paddled like 500 miles an hour to the wrong beach. I was like, oh, you guys should probably drive me home.
All right,
it was a good time,
man.
End of story.
We're already almost at an hour. All right,
this is a 2-hour episode.
Oh, that's right. It's a 4-parter. So, all right, this one. So, I bought a boat. I bought an aluminum 14-foot deep V with a 58 Johnson, 18 horse, and I bought a trolling motor, mounted it on the back. Bought the boat thinking like, this was before I'd ever gotten a kayak, and I was like, love fishing, did a ton of river fishing. I was like, I need a boat, like I want to fish, and like this is the way to do it. I'm gonna do it old man style. And so I buy this boat for like $1,000. Maybe it was 1,200. I think it was 1,200, trailer and all. Go and pick it up. It is a piece of garbage. And so I worked on the motor. I had somebody who's a professional work on the motor. I'm not a motor person. I like doing things though. So I rigged up the lights, re-rigged the battery, got the cheapo fish finder rolling, all the lights rolling, everything set up. I freaking worked on the trailer. I worked on the bearing buddies. I greased everything. I like got everything ready to roll. Like got my wife. I was like, babe, we're going out.
I got a boat now.
I got a boat. So we take the boat out to a spot, good lake. I had a huge, launch the boat, pain in the ass. I'm dragging that huge motor from my apartment because this is like a high theft area, so I can't just like leave it all out. So everything's chained up.
Carry this motor
so I carry
into your house.
90 pounds of motor like to the back of my apartment. So I get the motor out there. I get the freaking 70-pound battery out there. I get everything hooked up. I drag the troller out there. Blah blah blah. All the life vests, all the coolers, all the blah, blah, blah. We get it all out there. We get out to the lake. I back it up for 4 hours, getting it where it is because I drive a big truck and like this thing is, got a short trailer, so it's like right angles every time you cough. And then so I get it backed up. I get it in the water. Forgot the plug.
I did that my first time too.
Oh my God. Yes. I was like, what the hell? There's a hole in the boat. No, yes, there's a hole in the boat.
Holler at us if you forgot the plug your first time put in.
And you know what? Holler at me if you didn't, because you're smarter than me. That's fine. And
I think you're so cool. You think
you didn't sink my boat. And so I did. So after I get it out, I get my wife and she's like, Paul, there's water in here. I'm like, what? Wow. So I pull the boat back on the trailer, pull it up, drain it out, put the plug back in, put the boat back in the water. Hey, we plugged the hole. So we take the motor out. We fish for a little bit. I had like one of the bigger bluegills I've ever seen. And there's nothing I love more in this world than like a big bluegill on the line. Yep. It's so good. And so I'm like having fun. I'm like sitting on the front of this thing. I'm like king of the world. Go to our like second spot, yank on that cord. Like
baddest sound in the world.
Rip on it again.
Paul, is anything wrong back there?
No.
I'm fine.
Rip on the cord again. No, it's dead. I'm just like,
gone.
Oh, son of a gun. Troller's out of batteries. Did not. Something happened with the tender. It wasn't charged.
Yeah, there's no way.
I'm so pissed. So I'm like, all right, I bought oars. I bought oars for this boat. Nice ones. Fine. Long wooden, got the brass oar holder.
Yeah. I did that too.
Yeah, get these puppies out. Nah, too short. Oars too short. Can't go anywhere. I'm like, I'm my ass off. Guess where I went? Nowhere. Like,
it was like a river trip.
I'm like, dude, yeah, exactly. 80% to go 1 inch an hour. And I'm like, well, what do you do now? So I'm like, babe, this is not gonna be fun. Whatever I say for the next 2 hours, just ignore me. So I just stripped down, grab a bow line, jump in the water, and I literally swam that boat back. Swam that boat back.
Yes.
Like, brutal. Absolutely freaking brutal. And
oh my God.
I think I kept the boat for another, had to be 6 months. And then we had a couple other outings. It's not like we didn't have fun on it, but I never trusted it because it didn't have a nice motor. And that was a 58. And I mean, it's a Johnson, but they don't run forever. And I bought a new gas tank for that thing. I put money into that boat. Now I made it all back. So I did make the money back when I sold it, which is crazy. But yeah, I sold that boat. And I learned, honestly, I learned a lot about boats. I'll tell you that. Yep. I learned a ton about boats. I did though, that's when I switched over to kayaks. Mm-hmm. And I gotta be honest with you, I know we dog on boats a lot. They're sweet. If you know what you're doing with the boat and you got the time and you got the space and the money.
I don't think we I don't think we dog
I
on them.
do.
I think
I
we just
dog
say
boat owners.
we suck as boat owners is what we've said.
I'm not a boat
We
owner.
suck.
I don't think I'm born to be a boat owner, but I'm about to buy this tiny boat with paddles. But I
Hell
just, I
yeah.
do, after getting a kayak, I appreciated just being able to drag it around. I appreciated not having a motor. I appreciated being able to load up and like I load up in legitimately less than
Less
5 minutes.
than 3 minutes. Yeah.
And it's like I have what I need. I appreciate moving under my own power. I learned a lot, like a lot, and I was humbled many many times while owning that boat. But I did learn a lot. So yeah, that was, dude, brutal outing. I think
Dude,
a lot of. I certainly hope that someone is like laughing their ass off right now because they're like, I had that day, or they're like, I was watching you, you dumbass.
dude, yeah, exactly. It's like you got to imagine either boat owners if you have a really expensive boat, like give us some thoughts here. Did you start with a cheaper boat or not? And if you didn't, did you grow up around boats? Because like I've known a lot of people that have really nice boats, but they grew up around boats, like their parents, family members, they all had boats. They, as you know, they were 11, they backed the boat off the or down the boat ramp the first time. Like, cool. I tried my first time at 31 and I failed miserably. And
Yeah.
some guy was in line ahead of me and he was like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing?" And I was like,
I'm getting it
"What
up
do you
over
think
here.
I'm doing? I'm sinking my boat right here. Do you mind? Give
Yeah.
me a moment."
Oh, it's a
God.
throwaway $5,000. Go away.
Yeah. I hope you don't mind. But I just said it was actually kind of funny. I think probably new boat owners or people backing down a ramp the first time. I'll say not everybody's gonna react this way, but like this guy was kind of testy the first time. He was kind of pissed off, and I was like, I get it. I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry. This is my first boat. I've never backed it in before." And he actually said, "Hey man, no problem. I get it." And I was like, "Thank you." And he let me pull out and drain the boat and try again, and I got it. And I thought that was really cool. So, if you guys see, yeah, be kind to new.
Respect.
Yeah, thank you, sir, kind sir, wherever you are. Hopefully you're
Yeah,
listening.
that'd be bad.
That would be crazy, right? But it was cool. It was like at my home lake, and I was like, oh, nobody is ever here. I go there, there's 4 boats, and I was like, first day, this is not what I need, and whatever.
The only thing that rivals the social stress of backing up a boat is being on like a 45-degree hill at the top of it on a left-hand turn when it's like your second time driving a stick shift with like 300 cars
Ooh,
behind you.
oof. Dude, I've done that too. I've stalled out in an intersection in the middle
Yeah,
of
that's what I'm saying. Like you're at a left-hand
I'd
turn.
be like, sorry, everyone.
Everyone, dude, I think that's maybe, and that is such a fleeting thing,
Right.
but it's very time sensitive.
Yeah.
The boat thing is not fleeting at all, and also time sensitive. It is a very, very stressful situation.
Yeah. So if you guys see a new boat owner, be kind. Just be kind.
Dude,
Maybe give them some help.
Pay it forward.
Yeah. Thank you. If you are a nice person, and get out of here if you're not.
All right. You're
Next.
allowed one more. I have one that I can do quickly.
All right. I have 2 quick ones. I do want to address the one for the road. So I want to address.
Oh, OTR.
Yeah, OTR, the establishment of OTR, and then I'll do the beer Cinco as my next. Should I do that or the fly fishing trip? That's probably a big one. That might be a one for a whole nother podcast.
We can do these over
do
time.
Fly fishing stories.
We can do stories. This will be intermittent.
The fly fishing story is probably one of the most epic trips, and as far as like things that have happened, that it will be a really long story. But if you guys want to hear it, let us know.
No, we'll wait 5 episodes. We'll do another stories episode.
Fair enough. All right, so I do want to do the beer single then, but the one for the road, I think was established on the salmon trip. Pretty sure. I'm willing to bet on it. At any rate, what happened? It started that day, and it was probably because we were just taking giant pulls of bourbon and catching tons and tons of bass. So like, if you guys have seen Paul and I catch fish on a YouTube video, you have an idea of the level of just like surreal enjoyment we were having at that moment. Plus add bourbon into that. We were just like on another freaking planet. And at one point we were just catching them so hard. We were like, what do we do? Do we leave? We can't leave. And then we just established
it was like 9:30 at night.
It was so late. Yeah, it was getting really dark, and we're just like, we gotta go, and we had to
Well,
be at
we
the
still had
launch.
to set up camp, and we had to get up super early the next day. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, we had to be there to meet our boy Doug the next day, real bright and early.
he was late.
He was late, but it was that's also another trip that's super long another time. But yeah, so I think we just kept catching fish, so we finally just said, all right, this is it. We're calling it one for the road. And it was just like whoever catches the next fish, we gotta leave. Like at
But it's
that catch.
more, but it's morphed because that trip was like
It's changed from this.
you had to cut yourself off on that trip. I was
That's
like,
the
yeah, all right,
dream.
we gotta stop. This is the last one. It morphed from like that
No more for you.
to
You've
the
had enough.
exact opposite, which is like we can't leave until we catch one more.
So yeah, it was born in such a positive moment that is like nigh unachievable.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've had days close to that before, but they're so few and far between, right? But so what happens now is that's where OTR was born. We call it OTR, which is one for the road. But now we call it when we have to get the frig out of here before our wives freaking kill us. So we're just like, dude, it's been 8 hours. We've caught one fish. This was literally a trip recently that is not on the channel because it was so bad for me.
That was
I had a terrible. We both had a terrible day. You caught fish though, which is an obvious win. But what happened is you're out there forever and ever and ever, and you're trying, and other people are catching fish, and we're just mad and angry, and we want to go home, but we don't. And that's when you call it. So you say one for the road, and your hope is that. And many times it's worked. To be fair, many times it's worked. I'm almost never let down by OTR, but it's like 80-20. I'll say it's 80-20. 80% of the time,
and the positive,
I'm not let down. Yeah, I'm not let down. Yeah, 20% of the time you say it and you're like, well, shoot, I guess I'm living here now. But usually it's like, we're having a rough day or whatever, and we just call it, and one of us will pick one up on like the next couple of casts, and we're like, yes.
And then you put all your shit down.
Yeah, then you have to commit. It is a binding law.
One for the road. You got your one for the road. Yep. Time to hit the road.
That's it. No matter who catches it, they are basically the winner of that day. And you got like no matter what the numbers are. You caught 50 fish, they caught one, but they caught the
other. Time to get out.
So everything, drop the poles, you gotta leave. That's the rule. So I think that's important. We have some slang that we'll disclose over future episodes, but that is a very important.
That odor is like, that's it. That's the one.
If you guys don't have that rule, establish it now. It's so because you will.
It is important.
You'll save a marriage.
Yeah, and you might not die, because there've been a lot of times where I probably would have stayed out on water that I should not have stayed out on way too late and gotten to camp at like freaking midnight.
Dangerous.
Also, this weekend we hit an odor back to back.
The first double odor. First time.
That's actually true.
That was so like
my camera my battery died. My backup battery died
allegedly.
Literally. Here we go. Yeah. Okay.
So I watched Paul sent me his GoPro.
Yours.
You can hear it. You can hear Paul in mine. So that is in the YouTube video from last week. So go check that one out. That's the Ned Rig smallmouth bass fishing video. But like that was still throwing the chartreuse head, Guggen, rattling Neds. At any rate, so we were still throwing those. I cast one like right behind a log jam, and then I caught one, and then you drifted 50 yards down and did the exact same thing right behind the next log jam.
Just called odor.
We had just
I didn't even have time to put my crap down.
Yes, it was fantastic. So we doubled up and then we bailed, and it was great. So one for the road, very important rule. Establish it now. You'll save your marriage and possibly your life.
Possibly your life.
So that does that count as my story? That's more of like the lore. That's the lore. That's the lore of the channel.
I think that's a good spot. I want to save the rest. We can do more of these. We should just do these intermittently.
What's your short story? I want to hear that. You said you had one more quickie.
All right. This one was good.
It quick
it's funny. It's funny. It's pretty quick. So we're out. We had been out on this piece of water that flows in one direction.
One might call it a river. We don't know where, undisclosed.
If you will. And it had rained all freaking day. And we're taking shelter underneath a bridge. and I go to cast. I think I was going to cast. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I knocked a rod over into the water. And I go to reach and grab it, and I couldn't grab it in time because it was kind of far from the boat, actually. And Jeff's like, "Oh, I'll cast and I'll catch it." Which
with a crankbait.
Everyone thinks they can do this. This is like when you're a kid, you're playing tennis, and you're like, you're not really playing tennis, but you're like hitting the ball, and someone hits it, and you like throw the racket, and you're like, "I'm gonna hit it back when I throw the racket." Like no one has ever done that in the history of mankind.
It's never once worked, but we always have the false confidence.
Not ever.
I was like, I'll just catch it with my treble hooks. Oh wait, that's not how a crankbait works.
And so Jeff goes to cast, but he's like in a hurry because he's, wants to before the rod is sinking, right? And so he casts.
I had good intentions.
Very sporadic, like very erratically casts this thing, hooks my shoulder. I'm not wearing a shirt. Hooks right into the meat. And starts reeling me in. I'm like, stop! So I've got a line. I'm reaching around trying to get this rod in the water, and I literally have a crankbait in my shoulder behind me, just pulling me backwards.
I didn't know I had him. I didn't know I had you. I just like, it's stuck somewhere. I don't get it. I'm just,
I got it. Needless to say, I don't have that rod anymore.
That rod and
I'm never getting it back.
That was so freaking insane.
It was a good day.
Oh, what a trip.
Day, actually.
It was a really tough day. We did end up catching a decent amount. I caught my first trolling a crankbait, not in your shoulder, in the water. It was more successful that way. And you plugged bluegill like nobody's business.
I did. And I had one really big bass.
Yep.
And all the way up to the boat and then lost it. And that I really...
Oh, your trip ended so hard. So your trip ended with lost rod, hooked by friend, and then you lost like 3 crankbaits in a row. One like just wrapped around a tree in every facet of the tree, and you were just like, it's dead. And then you left. But like right before that was that bass. Like you were casting the crankbait you later lost. You were casting that shallow diving crank, and I saw that. I watched this in horror as the giant splashes were coming towards your boat, and then it just popped off.
It was gone.
And Paul shut down like a robot recharging. Just went head to ground.
That was like
there.
That was a brutal. It was a fun day, but that was a brutal day. That was tough.
We dragged our kayaks down very steep stairs that did not end in a landing. People, stairs to water. Stairs that went straight to water. We slid our boats down them.
That was a tough day. And I got yelled at by some guy for trying to help him catch a fish.
Who?
Remember we were at the area where the road hits the water that moves in one direction?
Parking lot by water?
I wouldn't call it a parking lot. The area. Well, the area.
Now they're researching every parking lot in the country.
Yeah, I know.
By a river.
Good. A river? Why would you give that away?
Oh my God. There's a dam. Oh no.
I've gone too far.
There's dams within a mile.
Well, now they have a 1 in 500 chance of finding our spot that sucks.
We're like, it was terrible. Don't go there. It's here.
And so, there's this dude, and he's like, bobber fishing, and he gets a fish, and he is struggling.
Oh yeah,
he wasn't having fun.
He was 10 feet above the water.
That's what I'm saying. And it was kind of like an older guy who was like not moving very well. And I'm like, I didn't want to be a jerk.
He fell down.
Yeah, he was like really struggling. And I was like, hey, do you want help? And he kind of like didn't give me a committed answer. I had a net in my hand already because I was loading up my boat. I'm standing like 30 feet from like where he's trying to reel the fish in. So I walk over there and I'm like waving the net. I'm like, I can help you. And he's like, no. And I was like, All right, bro.
Yeah,
And so we just
he was
walked away.
pissed. He didn't
I
speak
get it.
English though. He didn't speak English. I
It
think
was
he thought literally you were taking his fish and he was
I don't
catching
know.
those to eat.
Me, I just felt really bad because it seemed like he really wanted to catch. I mean, I agree that like I understand that like if you were just somebody who like was enjoying like the battle, do it
Yeah.
up and like basically get out of my face, loser. I get that, but at the same time, I was like, man, he's really not having any fun.
Well, he was
But
10 feet off the bank in a handrail section that had no trail, mind you, down to the water. We made a trail. We
it
went
was
through
a
the
big
woods.
drop off, and he was
It
not.
was bad. And he was fighting like a gigantic carp.
It was a big, yeah. It
It's like,
was.
what is this guy gonna do? He's
I
got
just
like
wanted to net it
12-pound
for him.
test line.
I just wanted to net it for him. I really just wanted to help. But yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't fun.
No.
Good story though. A little quickie.
It was a good one. There were. See, it's important to say this too, though. Maybe one partial lesson from that is the inverse of learning situation here is like that guy was a dick, but not everybody who's fishing on the waters you're fishing is a dick. A lot of people fishing your waters are awesome because usually the homeowners on the water are awesome. Usually, if you're cool, they're cool. But remember going by that guy and he had a pontoon labeled like the Bass Hunter or something, and we're like, dude, cool name. And he walked down and he told us everything to throw that day. And he was like, yeah, throw a black trick worm on a jig and like just wacky rig it. And I was like, okay. And I did. And I caught a rock bass moments after. Moments after. I was like, hey, thanks, dude. And the guy later was like, yeah, there's tons of bluegill here. And if you troll, you can catch bass. And then you plugged
Those
bluegill.
things happen.
And then I trolled and caught a bass. So I mean, if you're not a dick to them, they're not going to be a dick to you usually. And if you ask them for tips, pointers, as long as you're nice about it, like we didn't even ask. They just
like
offered.
real life. It's just like real life.
Be cool. Be kind to one another, people, is what we're saying. A message brought to you by the Burly Fishing Podcast.
And if you need help, it's okay to
ask.
It's
what
fine.
does that mean? You can't ask for help. What are you, dumb? Of course you need to, but
it is like going. I will say it is like going to the gym though too. If you're new, so if you're new, it seems intimidating. But just imagine yourself on the other side of things, where like something very well. Like say you're at work and you're an expert, and someone's like, "Hello, please help me." Typically, you're not gonna be like, "Screw off."
What are you, dumb? You don't know how to do that?
90% of the time, 90% of people are gonna be like. Even if they're like begrudgingly like, fine, I'll help. Like most people are cool.
Yeah, 100%. Don't be afraid to ask for help, especially if you're the newbie. And if you're not the newbie and you're the expert, then
stop being a prick.
Don't be a prick. Just help the newbies, man. I get it. If you live on a body of water, I'm sure there's tons of dummies. But like, if they're sober and they're being polite, be polite back.
Even soberish.
Soberish, yes. If they're just falling out of their boat and you're going to have to save their life, I get it. I get being pissed off. But soberish or sober and they're being cool, be cool back, man. Be cool to one another. And on that note, we're going to end it. So we have
hit me with the outro.
We probably have about, I don't know, 500,000 more stories. So if you guys want to hear more, let us know. And as always,
if you have any epic stories, email us. I'm talking like an absolute banger. Like if you have a knockout, like puts our stories to shame, like we shouldn't even be on here. Email us some detail on that story. I think we need to get you on the phone and you can tell your story. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But it's got to be good. Yeah,
you have to come on here on Skype with us and explain it. You're not going to do a whole episode necessarily. We'll boot you after, but
you get 2 hours. That's it.
You only get 2 hours to tell your story. Wait, frick, we told 3 stories in an hour and 13. You can do it. You can do it in 4 minutes. That's what you get. But we would love we would love to hear stories. I love it. I would love to hear from you guys. So any stories you guys got, and if you want to just explain in an email and remain anonymous, that's fine too. But if you want to hop on the podcast, shit, whatever, let's do it.
Good.
Yeah, it better be freaking good, like a real banger, not a danger.
Not a banger, but a banger.
We'll explain that later. But that's it for today, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the stories. If you're not telling your own fishing stories to other people, your friends, your family members, whatever, do it. It's so fun. Like this is what we do on our trips is we
Bother
have
them.
we have yeah. We'll do the thing. We'll go fish and then we'll sit around the campfire and talk about previous fishing stories. Like every time we fish, it's part of the journey. It's part of the fun. So share those stories, man. Share them wherever you can. Share them with us if you will. Hit us up at info@burlyfishing.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at BurlyFishing or on YouTube BurlyFishing. Go check it out and throw us a subscribe, a like, 5-star review, subscribe to this thing, whatever you want to do. And we'll see you guys out on the water. See you later.